Hey everyone, we're going to take a quick break and talk about our sponsors for the month, AMP Agency. AMP is a full-service digital marketing agency that specializes in tour, rental, and destination marketing.
We would not have sponsors on the show if we could not vouch for them ourselves. AMP Agency does a bunch of stuff for Destiny Water Adventures personally. I 100% vouch for this guy. I've handed them over to other companies in the past before they officially became a sponsor, and they have had nothing but great things to say. If you guys are doing your own marketing and doing a piss poor job of it, do yourselves a favor. Hand yourselves over to AMP Agency, specifically Steve Edwards, their CEO, will call you personally and have a great conversation with you about what you guys need to do for your marketing.
Listen, guys, they do pretty much everything in digital marketing. Website development, maintenance, Google AdWords, PPC, graphic design, social media management, SEO, and a myriad of other things. When you choose a marketing company, it's so important to choose a company that knows your industry. And AMP Agency knows activity marketing, especially water sports and tours. They got a promo going for Awkward Watersport Guy listeners for their managed websites. Use promo code Awkward Podcast when you go to amp.agency. Again, that's amp.agency, promo code Awkward Podcast. You get 3 months free and get started with AMP Agency. All right, guys, let's get back to the show.
And then ask that question again, Keith. That's a question you just asked before. What you said in our industry, what? What did you ask?
In the operator's industry, what is the average or the go-to exit strategy? Is it a top-line revenue multiple, or is it the EBITDA multiple plus assets?
Let me take this one, Greg. It's a wish. It's a wonderful, beautiful, dreamy little wish in which you take your fledgling, shitting, fucking smoke, ashy, burning fucking business to the ground. And then you're like, I want $10 million. And I'm like, yeah, me too. Let's go to the lotto store and get some fucking scratch-offs, you idiot. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a wish. Guys, welcome to episode, what are we on? 129. Episode 129 of the Awkward Watersports Guys podcast. Today, we have the man, the myth, the legend himself, Keith Gause is in the house. And as always, with my main man, with the plan, Greg Fisher. Greg,
Yo.
How you doing today, buddy?
Doing great. Even better that we got Keith here. Keith is my man, saving me money, making me money.
Minus that bed tax. Don't forget about
Minus
that
the
bed
tax.
Keith is the man with the tax plan.
What's up, boys?
Keith is back. He was on, I forget what that episode it is. If you go on our site, you can search. But that episode was one of my favorite episodes. I ended up actually hiring Keith. Hired Keith after it. It was so good,
too.
Made me think.
Keith
but
is
anyway,
back.
Yeah, he's back.
Can we do that? Can we do like this episode? Like, can we do like, remember the old Master P, like the diamond? We'll do like,
dude, only
Keith
if we get it tattooed. Let's get the Thug Life tattoo. Keith is back.
Oh, okay.
Bro, did you sell that Ferrari, or are you still riding around in it?
No, dude, it's freshly serviced and clean, and I've got my nice bed cover that covers it in the garage, and that's where she sits. Man, if you're interested, I know a guy selling one.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that would be fire. I'd be fire. I would drop off. I'd drop off my partner, or he would drop me off at your house, and I'd jump coast. But every mile it loses like 10 grand or something in value.
At least.
Yeah. What a perfect segue in today's topic. We brought Keith on here to talk about finances 2024. I think nobody has big, bright, shiny eyes for the next 12 months, and we figured we'd bring back Keith because we're going to be touching on a lot of finances at our event, which is coming up here. When this airs, it'll be like a week from now, and Keith is going to be one of the headliners there talking about this sort of stuff. And it's like, yeah, man, well, I got this Ferrari, like, who's got bags of cash? Who's got credit? How are they going to buy it? So, man, let's jump into it, man. Like, Keith, I love your opinion on this question. So it's raised a lot so I'm going to rate it to you. Is cash king?
Yeah, liquidity itself is king, right? And so it's more than cash, especially for business owners that deal with massive movements of money, right? Business is expensive to operate. You're buying equipment. Let's segue this into the operator's world, right? You guys have not so cheap equipment that you're renting out and utilizing day in and day out. So not only do you have to have an expenditure up front to acquire the asset, you've got operational costs, maintenance costs, gas, all the things, right? And let's also face it, most of these operators grew up in a world that we're not going to see again. Like the fucking 2% interest rates and the 20 years of 0% inflation and all the things that we've gone through realistically since 08, 09, right? Those days are not here right now. And the question mark is like, when rates drop, I'm going to do A, B, and C. Well, who the fuck knows if they're ever going to drop, right? I mean, we can hope and wish. So there's a couple ways to look at this. You know, the question is, and I get it too, right? Like liquidity and cash, what should I do with it? And I hold it, keep it. And in fact, the more that we can tighten the balance sheets today, the more that we can watch our expenditures today, the more cash we can keep in house, the better you're going to get through these months of bottleneck and pain and slowdown and just lack of business. And also to accompany that, really, it's what else should we be doing to find other reserves that we have access to, right? And so Kevin and Greg, you guys hear me talk about this all the time. It's like, go get your HELOC, home equity line of credit. Why? Well, if you have 400 grand of equity or 200 or 100 or whatever the hell the number is, and you don't have access to it, it's fake phantom equity at this moment. Like the only way to touch it is to sell your home. And I don't know if you guys watch the real estate market. That shit's not going to go anywhere right now. No one's really lining up at the bank to pay 8.5% or 8% interest on a house. So, the broad strokes to this is like the more liquidity you can amass and the more of your cash you can keep, the better you're going to be getting through the pain. But also, let's talk about the opportunities that are coming, right? We said this before we jumped on. The amount of people that are about to be out of business, huge. And those who are present today and who are situating themselves, if you will, from a liquidity perspective, are going to be able to buy market share, pennies on the dollar. They're going to be able to pick up businesses, real estate, whatever it may be, pennies on the dollar. Because there's a lot of people out there who just aren't ready, who are circling the toilet bowl. And they know it. And that's why when we joke about it, like, hey, I've got a business doing $1 million in top line revenue. I'm going to sell my company for $36.5 million. And that's the story, right? That's what people hear. But the reality is that $1 million company is not worth $1 million, and you could probably wheel and deal pretty heavy here in the next 6 to 12 months to buy that business at a super steep discount.
You know, our people, man, it's so funny. Like they get all like up in their panties about like reviews, right? So you go into our group or you go into a Truepreneurs group, and these guys, they just like live in, like Greg and I did an episode the other day, just like the importance of reviews on TripAdvisor, which is our industry's like a reseller affiliate type deal. And we went back and forth on it. Like everybody cares about reviews, like namely the operators. Like I'll give Greg that one little point over in his checkbox. We argue about it back and forth. It's like the operators care about the reviews. What's so funny, man, is that these guys get all emotional over a negative review, and they're like, they turn like, oh, she's just a Karen. And then that same motherfucker turns around and he's got like, you know, like, well, how much did you do top line last year? Well, I did 250,000. Well, how much do you have in ad backs in equipment? Oh, I've got 150,000. Well, how much do you want for your business? I want $5 million for it because it could be so much. It's like, Karen, calm down, Karen. And they get all emotional, man. They're so fucking emotional. Well, man, it could be, and then they're like their fucking little brains and the wishing and the dreaming and all these things that could. Well, at the end of the day, Keith and I had to talk about this today. Like reducing tax liability or paying taxes and showing your business and this and this and that. And it's like, well, for 20 years, what have you been doing? You've been fucking stuffing your dollars in your mattress. You've been fucking trying to hide everything from everyone. You want to keep all your secrets. And meanwhile, now you want to go sell your business and you want to talk about 2019 or 2020 or 2021's number. Like I know an operator tried to sell his business and he was like, well, what if I showed you a shoebox full of cash? Well, that's fucking fantastic, man. That's good for you. But at the end of the day, it's only worth what it is on fucking paper, man. And these guys get so emotional over their shit because now they want to retire and they want a couple million or 3 million or 5 million bucks. And on paper, it's worth fucking shit. And now it's like now they're in a panic to sell because we're in a downturn and fucking smell the embers, man. It's a fire sale.
Yeah, and here's the other thing that I think these operators and business owners don't understand, right? You guys can chime in on this, is that we're dealing with a different flavor of business owner, right? We're talking about the 25 and 30-year-old actual serial killer business owners who know how to make decisions, operate capital, and really who know how to pick apart a P&L and a balance sheet to tell you, hey, your business is worth $11.27. and these younger entrepreneurs out here are crushing the game because they're now coming into a place they've been stacking capital, whether it's daddy's money or they've done really well on their own. Listen, if you show me a P&L and a balance sheet with a $5 million question mark on top saying, yeah, it's for sale, I'm going to pick that bitch apart and I'm going to show you it's worth $17, and that's what you're going to get offered. But the emotional perspective is where business operators, to your point, get lost because I've put so much sweat equity and I've built this from the ground and this is my baby. Well, your baby's not worth shit.
Are you tired of spending countless hours managing your water sport and boat rental reservations manually? Is your current system outdated or doesn't provide the necessary features that your business requires? Hi, I'm Greg Fisher, the CEO of WaveRes, an online reservation software built by operators for operators. With our system, you can offer 24/7 online booking to your customers, allowing them to book and pay for their rentals at their convenience. You can also send SMS notifications to your customers, keeping them updated on their reservation status and any changes that may occur. Custom options and dynamic pricing enable you to offer tailored packages to your customers, helping you stand out from your competitor. Plus, our system integrates with companies like Werewolf Digital Waivers and TripShock, streamlining your operations and ensuring a seamless booking experience for your customers. Our software is the best choice for water sport and boat tour operators as it is designed to cater specifically to your needs. So why waste any more time on manual reservation management? Try WaveRes today and take your business to the next level. For a limited time, mention this ad and receive a $100 credit when you sign up. Check out waveres.com for more info or to schedule a free demo. Now let's get back to the show. Well, Keith, let me ask you this. How do you have that conversation with an emotional business person? Because I think these are the conversations that are going to be happening. Like, what do you say to them when they say my business is worth $5 million and you tell them, oh, it's worth $11, but how do you have that conversation?
Well, I mean, math is math, right? And obviously there's the boneheaded way to do it and just be, bull in a china shop and take feelings and crush them. But reality is this, like when I sit down with a business owner and we're doing a P&L balance sheet, debt schedule review, and we're looking at EBITDA and numbers are numbers. And to Kevin's point, like people got really fucking accustomed to showing zero. I want to show a loss for 26 years and then I want to sell for 80 million. Like that's the reality is this. You may pull one over on a small operator who doesn't know his head from sand, right? Who just thinks I can pay to acquire X and I can get your book of business and it's worth that to him. And they're 1 out of every 10. But if we're looking at a true entrepreneur who understands numbers and math and income and taxes and add backs, there's no argument. It's either you sell for what the business is truly worth, or you hold that bitch until it goes away on its own, right? And so we're helping a client right now through a transition, and it's a very large transition. But this one's actually vice. It's reverse of what's normal. He was way undervalued on his own, and I was like, bro, like you're 10 times more than that. Those are diamonds in the rough. But he did the right thing. He paid his taxes. Sure, he mitigated taxes, right? There's a difference between not paying taxes and paying an appropriate amount of taxes to show numbers to lead you to the end zone that you want, right? So if you know, hey, in 5 years, I want to exit, well, there's specific things that investors are looking for, private equity, venture capital, et cetera. We need to show 5 years of bandwidth, or maybe even longer runway of practical numbers that these investors want to see. And if you can show that, you will have zero problem selling your company, right? But to Kevin's point earlier, we lived high on the horse for 20 years. People were hiding money because it was so easy. They could make money anywhere, everywhere, as much as they wanted. But no one saved it. No one showed the numbers, because in that moment, they're like, why the fuck would I get rid of this? Well, the first little bottleneck and point of contention is here. Interest rates through the roof, inflation through the roof. You can't get new boats. You can't get new engines. You got to wait. You got to this. You got to that, right? You can't get any shit to make more money. Kevin and I talked about it today. He's like, dude, I could have made 10x more money if I could have had the equipment. There's a lot of people who have that same mentality across all the industries. But the problem is nobody knew this was coming. And now that it's here, they just want to run for the hills thinking back on that 2019, 2020, 21 months.
So what do you say to the operator? I'm assuming that on the cheery side of things, most operators are probably in consolidation and a consolidation type of phase right now. I think all the warm, fuzzy growth cycle is obviously coming to an end. But if you're speaking to an operator that is either consolidating or maybe looking to, to grow again, but maybe not too much, put it all on the line for our industry, it's like, man, like you'd be paying as much as 15% on a commercial recreational vehicle loan, depending on the vehicle. So what do you tell the guy? Let's just say he's got 50 grand sitting in the bank, and he's like, man, I got 4 boats, I got 6 jet skis or whatever, and I feel like we're not as big as the middle guy. We're still small, but we still could add a couple vehicles to the fleet. But man, I got 50 grand, so I don't really have enough to cut it, get through the off season. Like, what do I do with this little bit of cash that I have, and how do I juggle that against these volatile interest rate environment?
Yeah, you just hold it. You hold it. Like 15% interest rates eats into your profit margins way too much for you to buy another vehicle to be profitable. So the realistic business decision is stay in consolidation mode.
Yeah.
Right? This too shall pass at some point. Now, we've got some outside pressures too, not just from an economic position in the business cycle, but we can't ignore the presidential debates. We can't ignore the presidential election. So we're also in that season, which typically has emotions high and business going crazy and doing things that aren't normal, because now we've got a bunch of people stuck to their TV wondering when Trump's going to get arrested again and who's on the Democrat panel for this debate and what this guy said in the Republican debate and all that bullshit that people are paying attention to. If you're an operator and this is your livelihood, because most operators, this is how they pay their bills. This is how they raise their family. This isn't like a fucking Elon Musk who can own 10% of his company and be on vacation all the time and have a plethora of cash. So for the smaller guys, it's one of two things. The fork in the road is this. You either sit on your hands and maintain, keep your liquidity so that you can keep your doors open, or spend your money and shut down in 6 months. Choice is yours, because you just can't afford to stay open.
Yeah. The thing that we've been doing is we've been increasing all of our lines, our credit cards, lines of credit, everything that we have. We did, and we raised, we increased our credit by almost a few $100,000. I don't need it. I may not even touch it. But if there's an opportunity that is too good to pass up, now I have it. I have it now, and I don't have to pay for it. Yeah, I might help pay some interest on it. But if the opportunity is so good, it could be worth it.
It's like deja vu, isn't it, Keith? Me and Keith just had this conversation 3 hours ago.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Well, we had that show with John DeSauer earlier this year, Kevin, and he basically was saying that it doesn't matter how much it costs. It's about the opportunity.
Correct.
If the opportunity is good and all makes sense, there's always a risk, but it can be mitigated by good research and preparation. But any cash I have, I'm holding. Keith is helping us out with a lot of that, but increasing my credit limits on everything. I don't care if it's a $5,000 increase on our business cards. I'm increasing every bit I can. And for the smaller businesses, it's a bigger percent if you can get it, hey, if you can raise it from 100 to 125,000, that's 25,000 now you have access to.
For the operators, dude, I don't give a shit if it's a $1,700 credit limit on your credit card or if it's a $57,000 limit. If you're not calling those companies every 3 months asking for more, you're giving opportunity away. And to Greg's point, like hard money loans, right? The people are paying 13 to 15% on hard money right now. But if the opportunity can carry the cost of the money, who gives a shit what the money costs? The reality is get liquid, have exposure to capital, and I don't care where it's coming from, whether it's a line of credit at the bank, a HELOC on your house. We got extended credit cards that have open, inventory on those to be able to use. If you're borrowing money from Kevin or if I'm borrowing money from Greg, it doesn't matter.
Neither one of us have money. Like disclaimer, don't ask either one of us for money. You ask Keith. He's got a dollar sign in the background.
16%, dog. I got all kind of money for that kind of return, and I hope you do find a deal. No, the reality is, like, to your point, like, without liquidity right now and without a plethora of cash in your bank account, like, you shouldn't be expanding unless you're getting phone calls for loans in the middle of the podcast, and those things do happen.
Oh my God. My shit was on Do Not Disturb. I don't know. Oh, they did because Do Not Disturb on my computer. Nice. God, how did it ring? Did that come through?
Yeah.
That was a creditor.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I mean, listen, the bottom line is this, like, unless it is just an absolute phenomenal deal, I wouldn't be expanding shit in this market until we start to see more pullback. And it is coming. And you're going to know it's here because, to your point earlier, Kevin, the dudes that are asking the $15 million crazy assumptions right now, they're going to be begging for anything in 6 to 12 months if they don't change their ways. And you're going to be able to get that same $5 million deal for $600,000.
Yeah. And that was sort of my follow up. Like, I think in this industry, we saw this massive boom in 2022, and obviously not just this industry, all industries, all the free COVID money, all the free idle money, the ERTC money, like all these checks are just pouring through to everybody.
The government just shut those down.
Yep.
The ERTC?
They did.
ERCs shut down their applications, and everyone's getting audited.
Yeah, I didn't take that money because I was a little bit
our
worried
CPA
about
just
that.
told us that one of our clients is getting audited right now.
Yeah,
so
it's coming. I don't think everyone's going to get audited, but it's the ones that, I mean, dude, you had an ERC company on every street corner, right next to the liquor store, in between McDonald's and Walmart. You know what I'm saying? And dude, they popped up overnight, and everyone was running for that flag. Hey, I can get you $80,000 back a quarter times 7 quarters. Here's $650K back.
Yeah.
And people were taking it, and people were spending the fuck out of it. Right? It's free money. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I heard that shit. Free money. Well,
until you got to pay taxes on it.
Until you have to pay taxes and pay it all back because you fraudulently fucking applied for the shit to begin with.
Yeah, man. So I want to pivot that a little over to I think like right now, because of all of that money, because of that inflated environment and that, you know, little very nominal interest rate environment that had been happening the previous 18 to 24 months. You got guys now, especially in this industry, that didn't see the growth for 2023, have been in the game a long time, and like the party's over, and they're like, "Well, now I want to Now I want to sell my business." And you know, let's say they have, and in our industry, I mean, it's super ad back heavy because of all the equipment. I mean, the business is the equipment. So I'm starting to see stuff on Biz Buy Sell. What's the first move if somebody's thinking about getting ready to, because the whole conference too, this is going to be like highly thematic between yourself and Chris Batchelor. You know, he's just like, man, if you're going to sell it to this guy, but before you sell it to this guy, hire this guy. Like, you guys are really going to really pound the finance side of it home. So like, you know, if somebody is thinking about getting ready to transition and they're ready to go into retirement, they're like, man, I don't want to look at another down cycle. What do you think is like 1 to 3 KPIs that they should be focusing on right now before they go ahead and make that move?
Net profit. Net profit is the KPI you need to take advantage of, because you got to think, like,
wouldn't cash flow be?
I mean, cash flow is great, but if cash flow doesn't correlate to profit, then cash flow is just another moving target that doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
It just means you're busy, right? But if you're not profitable, I mean, how much money would you spend to just cash flow another $2 million through your bank account every year with zero left at the end of the year? I mean, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? So the reality is this. I deal with investors looking to buy businesses all the time. They want to know what's the 5 or 10 year period of time prior to today, and what was your profit margin each year? And it doesn't matter if it was 60% or 10% or 5%, but if you're showing profit margin every single year that's growing on a scale, it's easy for them to say, all right, well, I can come in and change the KPIs and change the sales cycle and add this and do that and increase that margin X percent per year to get my investment back. That's what people are looking for. People aren't necessarily going, I mean, Kevin, would you go buy a business? You know, hey, I'm going to pay you $2 million. I'm going to pick up 12 boats, but at the end of the day, it's not going to do anything beneficial for me other than have 12 more boats I can rent out. Like, if you can't monetize that to a level of security on the profit side, it's just more work. That's all it is. So I always look at the KPI as far as like, all right, well, if you're looking to sell, how much revenue are you bringing in? What are your parameters? How much are you paying cost of goods sold? What are you in comparison to the industry average, so that I know if you're on target, off target, above target? How much are you paying in employment? What's your industry average percentage there? Right? If the industry average says you're 40% of your cost of income should go to employment and you're at 70%, there's 30% profit margin I can push to my bottom line by pulling the old Elon Musk and just getting rid of people. The bottom line number itself is important, but you have to go through the metrics of the profit and loss statement, the balance sheet, the EBITDA numbers to understand if this person's showing you 5% profit, what's the true profit? Because we all operate business different. We're all in different territories. We're in different cycles and all those things too. So the reality is, like, I want to know what your profit margin is, not just what you're showing, but once I go through your P&L and I understand where you are to the benchmarks and what I can change or adjust based on what my historical data shows in my business, you may show 5% profit. I may be able to change 3 things and bring that number to 30%. That's a much different conversation than someone just saying, hell, my business, I did 300 grand in revenue. It's worth 5 million. No, wrong. So there's no one way to look at that. Really, it's going to be case by case, but that's what I look at. I don't really look at the KPIs. I want to know statistics. Statistics don't lie. Math doesn't lie, right? 1 + 1 is not $2,700,000. It just is what it is. So that's when I'm helping someone kind of source it. That's what we start at. Then we can dig into the operation. We can dig into all the other shit behind the scenes.
Keith, profit margin. What profit margin percent for a water sport business, small, medium size? Like what do in buyers looking for? Is it 25, 30%? Like what's the benchmark?
I think the average when I looked at it the other day was like between 20 and 30%, if I'm not mistaken. I could be way off there too, right? So I need to go look at that number again, but I want to say that's somewhere in that 20 to 30% range, right? That's your net profit margin. Right. And
is that what you would advise your clients? Like if they said, Keith, how much money should I be making with my business? You would say 20 to 30% would be a fair. Obviously, it's going to change between business to business, but for.
Yeah. And that's a hard one to answer because everyone's a little bit different. And I think the question behind that question is, why are you in business? If it's a lifestyle business that is strictly to pay your lifestyle and to get you through life and to do the things you want to do, then who cares what your margin is as long as you have enough money to spend on what you want. But if you're getting into this game or if you're in this game already and you're like, fuck this, I want to get out of this industry, but I want to sell, then we need to recalibrate the way that your processes are working so that you are showing profit every year on a growing scale so that you do become more attractive to the buyer, right? I mean, the reality is no one's going to buy a company that's flat 5 years in a row, right? And you may be flat 5 years in a row because you have shitty CPA advice saying, hey, don't show any growth. But the reality is, like, if you tell me that as the buyer, I don't care. Like, I'm not buying your company just because you chose to show no profit. I want to look at all the other statistics to see if that is a true reality or if you're just bluffing.
Go
ahead.
When it comes to paying yourself W-2 income, like I know a lot of businesses, Kevin, do you pay yourself as an employee in your company?
I do.
Yep. Okay. So obviously when you do that, it affects your profit margin. And I know some businesses, they don't take a salary to show, more money in the bottom line. What do you do? If you're an owner or your husband, wife, team own a company, should you be W-2 employees or should you not to make your books look better, I guess?
Well, that answer comes from how you're structured in the business.
Okay.
Right. If you're an LLC that files or elects to be taxed as an S corp, you're required to take W-2 as an owner. Right? LLC is all pass through. So if you take payroll or not take payroll, you're still paying taxes on that shit at the end of the year because it's just going to pass. All that's going to pass through to your bottom line, and that is considered an add back, right? Because if I buy Kevin's business, I'm not paying Kevin anymore, so his salary is going to go back up to the top line revenue in my calculations of profitability. So it's neither here nor there. You're going to have to pay the shit anyway. You need to follow the law first and foremost on that piece and then pay yourself.
So what's your advice to an operator that is, I'm sure you don't love this one because these are the fucking Karens I talked about at the beginning. What is your advice to an unreasonable operator who's got in their fucking imagination an unrealistic number? They do want to retire. They do want to put it on the market. Like expectations versus reality. Is there like, hey man, you're going to put this on the thing for $2 million. It's really worth $500,000. And maybe you'll get a sucker. Maybe someone will just come out of the woodwork that doesn't have anybody that works with them that has fucking $2 million just burning a hole in their pocket and dying to start a paddleboard business or whatever it is. Like, what advice do you give to somebody when that delta is so wide between the reality and the expectation?
You just let them fumble, man. There's those people, Kev, that you just can't talk to about it. Once they have that vision in their head of sitting on a fucking beach somewhere, getting fanned by, the local fangirl and getting cherries fed to them. Like once that vision's there, sometimes it's hard to talk someone off of that. And the reality is, like, time will do that for them, right? Because when that business is still sitting there in 7 months and this guy is like still working, because the reality is this, like once someone decides to sell, they've checked out. I've seen it so many times, right? Where people are like, I'm selling the business, and then they quit growing, they quit caring. It just starts to fizzle. And then 7, 8 months passes. They've had 3 people look at their books and walk away. They either start to lower it themselves, or the business is so screwed by that point that the value went from that true $500,000 maybe that it was worth to $200,000. So my advice, more so for the buyers out there, the tactical, strategic thing to do is make the offer based on the math and don't force it. You cannot force the sale. So if that individual is off their rocker and has this unreal, this unreal number, you put them in your drip campaign. Check back on it in 6 months, 8 months, 4 months, 3 months, whatever it is, but keep nudging them. It's no different than going 6 months ago and trying to buy an Escalade or one of these cars that you couldn't get. You order one, you get it in, you go sell it for $60,000 over MSRP, right? The same Escalade that you would pay $175,000 for 4, 5, 6 months ago. I just had a client send me an inbox. Hey, I got 7 of them. I got 7 of them on the lot. I said, cool. Send me a price tag on all of them. I'm going to send them out to all the people that have been talking about it. Cadillac Sport Platinum SUV, you would pay $175 for 6 months ago. You can pick it up for $115,000 today.
Yep.
Welcome
back to reality.
The lesson here is patience. So to answer that, it's like, what do? You do nothing. You make the real offer, and if they don't take it, you walk. You have to. Or you're going to be this guy who buys $2 million of debt, and then in 6 months, you're out of business.
Yeah. And, if you're an existing tour business and you buy your competitor locally, you can consolidate the team. So, you don't need that company's full team. Maybe you need a quarter of them or half. You can, assign some of the responsibilities to your current manager. So keep in mind that, when you look at their P&L, you might not need a lot of the expenses. You might be able to just rope it in, like web development. You can combine it with your current agency, staffing. So there's some things that maybe you can compromise on when you're negotiating the price, because you're hopefully going to utilize, your current resources for the new company.
There's a lot of strategies to look at, especially, and the buyers right now are in the power seat. The buyers are in the power seat right now, especially in the industry that you guys, focus on. The ones that are selling right now don't hold the power in the negotiation anymore.
Yeah.
They just don't.
Yeah. And it seems like that's like, sort of like everywhere. I guess like the housing market's a little bit, but if you're coming to the table with cash, maybe, I don't know. Like, I think that's the only struggle with trying to buy a house in this environment. But it seems like it's, you've heard this everything bubble quote that's been floated around. Like, just like, as you said, like the Escalade, same thing. I was looking at them and someone was like $150,000. I was like, get the fuck out of here, dude. Like, if you're still in, and I talked to somebody maybe like 2 weeks ago, I was like, man, good luck, man. Like, good luck getting $250,000 out of an Escalade. But it seems like it's not just our market, but it's like all markets. So that kind of dovetails into my next question for you is, how long do you think that this environment looks like this environment? Sans interest rates, but as far as more downturn goes.
There's absolutely no telling, right? Let's face it. We've all heard of this second stupid ass lockdown thing coming around, right? If that comes to fruition, we've got a long way to fall. We've got a long way to fall if that happens, right? And the reality is, no one knows. No one knows. I can sit here and tell you that I'm looking at all the tactical and technical indicators, leading indicators and lagging indicators and all the shit that we pay attention to from like a stock market perspective and an economy perspective. But the reality is this: if you're not liquid and you're not saving your pennies and watching your balance sheet on expenditures, if this thing tightens up more, you're in a world of hurt. There's not a whole lot of avenues that you can run out and go get more money. Banks are tight. Banks are tight. They're not like dying to give you money. In fact, it's the very opposite. How many banks do you drive by? Shit, we just talked about this today. You're getting 5.25% in a money market account. Banks are asking for you to deplete all your cash reserves into their bank so that they can give you 5.25%. Okay, well, why the fuck do you think they're doing that? They're raising capital to become as liquid as they possibly can for when this thing turns around at whatever stage that is, they're in buy mode. It's the same thing that happened in 8-9 when we had the housing crisis. Banks started offering a shit ton of money to keep your money there. And what'd they do? They went out and bought neighborhoods. Dime a dozen. And then what did they do? They sold that shit in the past 5 years and 10x their money. So if you're not doing what the banking institutions are doing and keeping all of your nuts at home, you're going to be in trouble if this thing goes down. So
advice to operators who are currently maybe over leveraged or very close to being over leveraged, and there's pain in like is there any recourse that they can take besides kiss your ass goodbye and obviously cut costs?
Cutting costs is the first thing we look at. Balance sheet tighten, right? Optimization of the balance sheet. And then the second thing is you may just have to sell shit. You may have to get rid of inventory right now. And that's the worst thing an operator wants to hear, or any business owner. But the reality is the reality. What is more important? Keeping food and lights on at home and keeping your employees hired or at least halfway hired, or holding on to your dignity and your macho man Randy Savage self and end up shutting the doors down and then figuring out what to do with the family next. That's the reality we're in.
Wow, it's all sunshine and rainbows from Keith Gause, everybody.
Yeah, it's just
if you got cash, if you got money in the bank right now, you're going like fucking downturn. Like, let me buy this stuff. Like that's like the whole Robert Kiyosaki. Yeah,
you said it earlier, Kevin. You're like, dude, the only people buying houses right now are the ones that can come in and offer cash. They're liquid. They don't have to worry about 8.5% interest rates. They can come in and offer you whatever they want, cash, money, and close in 7 days and call it on to the next one. And they're doing that because they're buying an asset that holds equity and can produce monthly cash flow. And then what happens? Guess what happens if rates go down to 5%? They refinance and cash out. They get their money.
I think most of our operators that are probably listening to this right now are probably in a consolidation phase. I myself, I was like, yeah, man, we're just gonna we talked earlier, and I talked about buying a boat maybe for 2025, but at the moment we're just kind of like sitting back, watching, not going too crazy on anything, put a little bit of money into some new things just because I get bored and I need to do stuff. You know what I mean? Yeah, big cab, bro. Because I just needed another logo in my life. But I'm by no means a financial expert at all. But like, keep in mind too that these type of environments as well, like, are good breeding grounds to spin new shit up, to disrupt, to solve problems that haven't been solved, to find cheap labor because everybody's probably going to be looking for a job. The whole $25 an hour minimum wage bullshit's not like, when nobody can get a loan or a business loan or is growing, then that means, guess what, fuckers? Very few people are just like, oh man, we're growing like weeds, so we're hiring. So that's coming next. Like, the labor market's probably going to shrink up a little bit. And those of you guys that are 18 years old getting out of high school are like, yeah, man, I just need like $25 an hour. It's a favorite John Turtetta or whatever his name was in Rounders said, and goes, yeah, and I need a hand job from Christy Turlington. Yeah, all right. Well, but and I've heard this from other just business podcasts that I've listened to before that, like, this is a really good breeding ground to go in and disrupt some shit because there's blood in the streets, because people are scared, and because now there is opportunity. Like, don't mistake this entire thing for doom and gloom. I think the entire encapsulation of what was being said on today's, and correct me if I'm wrong, Keith, but is like, there is opportunity everywhere, and there's a lot more coming.
Yeah, and let's make sure that everyone does understand that. I don't want this to be a scare tactic of like, holy shit, all of you are going out of business. But the reality is this. If you're feeling pressure, the only way not to feel pressure is to have resources available, which means to have cash in the bank, to have access to money. And where that starts is your balance sheet and your P&L. You need to really do an internal dive. And in fact, I mean, I'll share with you, I'm doing an internal dive. We got rid of some employees. We tightened the balance sheet up, selling the Ferrari, right? Like, these are all things that I don't want to do. But the reality is this, like, I also know that it could get crazy. And those things are all material things that we can once again go buy later when things feel better. Right now, it is a strategic defensive mechanism. We got to put the defense up. So we need to get in there and we got to look at the balance sheet. We got to see, can you tighten things up? Can you go without certain things? Can you eliminate certain bills today? Right? We talk about fixed expenses versus variable expenses. What variable expenses can you pause or pull back on? I was talking to an attorney client today. He's like, hey, man, I followed your advice. I shaved $40,000 a month in expenses in marketing and advertising and just other shit that he could go without right now, knowing regardless if you spend 40 grand a month in advertising, you're probably not going to increase your revenue by 40 grand in the boat world, right? Especially going into the winter season. So it's important to really take a vulnerable look at your books and figure out what you can do to help yourself. Because the more you do that today, the better your firing squad's going to be later when the opportunities start to arrive. And now we can go on the offense, right? We can start making plays and making calls and scoring touchdowns together because you've got some reserves built up. You made it through the season. This is just a season. And if you can do things methodically and you don't lose your shit and buy a catamaran and you don't lose your shit and buy this over-leveraged house and you don't do these things and you just have patience, things will be fine. But there's got to be some due diligence done, and people got to swallow their ego that they've been holding for the past 5 years. Just have to.
Yeah, we're right at the end here, but I want to highlight everything that Keith said. With I think this will be the last episode before the Watersport Conference at Arival. Keith will be giving a keynote presentation. He will be there to meet. You can get his business card. You should get his business card.
It's a business
at
card.
the end of the whatever, you know what I'm fucking talking. You can get his OnlyFans QR code, like however you know how to reach you. Listen,
that's an expense you got to add to the balance sheet, baby.
Because listen, like this is like we are probably looking at some turbulent times, and whether you're growing, whether you're getting ready to exit, whether you're ready to consolidate and you're ready to hunker down, if you are looking to transition from a small business to something more, or you want to take your lifestyle business and preserve it for your family, I could not, and this is not a pitch, this is 100% like dire sounding the alarms truth. Like, you want to be at the event on October 9th in Orlando. Come meet Keith, come shake his hand, take your shit to the next level, understand how to list your business if you're looking to go into retirement, look how to shape up your fucking books if you want to act like a real business. And look, man, you want to go on vacation in Hawaii and have a great time. It's awesome. This guy's going to make sure that the money's is still in the bank for you to enjoy, whether it be the lifestyle business or the growth oriented or the transition to retirement or to a larger organization and how to be a better organization. This is it, man. The storm is coming. October 9th, we're going to show you guys how to properly weather those conditions. Thank you, Mr. Keith Gause, for coming, pouring knowledge. This man pouring knowledge into our listeners. And bro, I can't wait to get a big ass hug from you at the event on October 9th in Arival, and that'll be the one session I'm definitely gonna have all ears open because I'm so stoked to hear you speak, man.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be a good trip. Gonna be a good trip down, and I'm looking forward to meeting everybody and meeting some of the ones face to face that I've actually started working with.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, Keith is getting, if you do end up hiring Keith, free cuddles. One free cuddle with every consultation that ends with a sale. And with that, guys, as always, keep it awkward.